Hello, Futties, and welcome back to FUT In Review, the ultimate team podcast, bringing you a podcast a whopping 3 times a week. Today is February 15th, and we are recording episode 63 of a fourth season, making it a grand total of 384 episodes. Today's show is brought to you by footcoaching.com, so go visit the site and let our coaches help you get better at FIFA, while using our data-driven approach, trained coaches, and of course our software suite, Code In, which brings you the tools used in major football competitions around the world right into your FIFA experience. So check out footcoaching.com. And of course, the last part of our housekeeping, we are now streaming live on twitch.tv/footcoaching every single Monday, Wednesday and Friday, but we are recording this on Tuesday because it's a special day. And if you have an Amazon Prime subscription, feel free to give us that donation because, hey, Amazon takes it away from you and you can definitely help us while you are doing that. Also, if you want to support us, go to patreon.com/FUTINReview and see how many amazing benefits we can provide you with, and you can make sure we can keep going and we get some awesome bonus discounts on coaching. And that's just for about $1 a week, so get and join our awesome community. Next to that, of course, you receive your name in the visual shows for starters, and depending on your contribution, you might get a special shout out each and every single episode, like our top supporters do in the Skybox owner, which are Amar and Reese. So let's get this show on the road tonight. It is Tuesday. We are recording a special episode. My name is John, also known as Foot Coaching, and today we'll be talking about ego. Yes, no content, but just all about ego. And as you can see and might hear in a moment, I am not doing that alone. I am joined by a dear friend and of course a very trustworthy party. It's our friends from Next Level Esports. It's Donny.
What's up, John?
Hey,
Thanks
mate.
for being here again.
It's good to have you on board, mate. It's been a while. This is your second appearance. But we've been talking almost daily lately. So
yeah, for sure.
Hey, mate, for everyone that doesn't know you, can you tell a bit about who you are, what you're up to, and why do we work together? And what are we going to do together? That's also a nice one for the future, right?
Yeah, for sure. All right, so my name's Donny. I'm the owner of Next Level Esports, and with Next Level Esports, I help teams and also coaches become more impactful. So I also help develop teams, and that's more like the direction that we were talking about the ego thing. So also the mental side, so supporting the teams with the mental side of esports, coping with stress, all those things to get into the zone. So everything that is besides the game, right, to get your in your best shape and best performance. And yeah, so like you and me are partners in crime, and the way we help each other is well, one of this episode is like an example of creating podcasts and content to get more voices out there of the mental side, and also like how to develop as a team or as a player, as an individual, and also about coaches. And since you guys are foot coaching, I'm helping you guys also to become more impactful. So you guys are doing a lot of great things, and I'm helping you guys to even do better things, right? To really get the nitty gritty parts of coaching in the best way possible. So all your customers in terms of FIFA are getting the best experience as possible. So they will learn more, they develop more. So I believe that's a great synergy that we have going on. So yeah, that's about it. I guess in a nutshell.
Yeah, well, I think that's a very good explanation, and I think something that's been very underrated, and I really applaud you for doing that, and I really like those sessions as well. You have started a program where esports coaches, so not necessarily FIFA coaches, but esports coaches in general, can subscribe, get into your programs, and actually discuss certain topics every single week. Get into the depth there, exchange experiences, ask each other questions, or hey, I've got a topic and I want to talk about this, or I'm experiencing this, can anyone help? And esports coaches across different games try to help each other on these topics, which is something I'm a big fan of, right?
Yeah.
One of the topics we discussed last week and I really like that session, was ego.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good one. So if you're interested, go check out Next Level Esports. We'll put the website, of course, in the description. And Donny will definitely name it at the end of the show as well. But I definitely like that topic so much because I think there are many people that can actually relate to that. It's also a topic near to the football mind, right? So people that play football or watch football, everyone talks about ego in sports. So generally speaking, I think it's a really cool topic. So tonight we're going to discuss ego. And that starts, of course, with asking Donny, what's ego?
What's ego? Yeah, like it's an interesting thing, right? Because you can view as the ego as the angel on your shoulder. You know, you have the devil on the one side and the angel on the other side, right? At one time, you feel like, oh, you're in balance, you're an angel, and you're performing well, you're doing well, you're showing yourself from the best side. Well, that's basically like the angel side, you can say, like you transformed yourself in an angel. But now think about yourself. Are in those 24 hours, are you 100% an
I'm
angel
always an
all
angel,
the
Donny. You know
time?
that, right?
Yeah, I know you are 100%, 100%, 100% right. No, no, they're really like are just think about yourself and like are you like this perfect person or like the best version of yourself all the time? And quickly you will realize no, because maybe you're eating an extra cookie from the cookie jar because even though you want to become more healthy, but you like eating a cookie. Or when you're playing FIFA, because we're in a FUT coaching environment, right? That you feel like, okay, but I'm the best, I'm the greatest, you know, like that you feel like, okay, I'm maybe over exaggerating from how good I am, right? But also, and it is a very interesting part that we will hopefully get more to the core of it, and I'm sure we will. It's also the opposite, right? Because when we think about ego in general, we think about like, oh, that very arrogant player, you know, who thinks very highly of himself. But at the same time, you also know players or friends or people that you know outside of FIFA as well that has a really low amount of ego. So they are more anxious. They don't have the confidence, you know, like they say, like, oh, I'm bad all the time. I cannot get anything to work. Like, I'm super bad. I don't know what's going on, you know. Or when they're in a team environment, they say, yeah, you just do your thing. I will just follow, you know. And although there can be good characteristics, to be a follower in certain occasions. You don't want like everyone else or life dictate your pace, right? You want to dictate life and your progress and your development as well. So I would like to talk with you, John, with about like high ego and also low ego and different kinds and how you can get to the core of ego. So yeah, that's basically part of an introduction.
Tony, isn't ego or being egocentric just plain bad?
It depends, right? It depends, right? That's always the coaching general answer, right? Because every context is different. But in general, when we think about the association of, oh, he has a is a high ego, right? So let's take a couple of examples, right? So let's take a great football player, so Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi for that regard, right? So you can say like, okay, they're pretty mellow in terms of performance, and you know they're very supportive of their team. You know that's the angel side of things. You know, like they're showing off the best thing. But at the same time, what happens when they score? Right? What is popping out of them? Is it still the like and the humble like angel side of it, or is it like Cristiano like running to a, like the corner post and goes like Sue, and he fills up the whole stadium with his, you know, with his presence. Everyone's looking at him, making himself big, like I am the greatest, right? So what is that? Is that having a big ego? I think that is. But the thing is, do we feel like, oh, he's too arrogant or whatever? Maybe at some times, but it's always a balance, right? So having a big ego really helps in such situations to push your, I don't know, yeah, you can say persona forward, how you can present yourself. But at the same time, if you using your ego in an more toxic way or not beneficial way for you, then that is a problem. That is become an obstacle, and you want to overcome it basically and know how to overcome it.
The thing is with ego, right? It sounds very negative, generally speaking. And
Right.
especially when looking in team sports, I think it's good to have at least one player in that has a bit of ego, right? Which can also carry the team in the meanwhile. I think that's something we tend to see. The player with ego is very eager to also try to carry the team. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. So one example of that is, so I've worked with different teams with different like ego balances in that regard, and I've also like coached and developed teams that had more on the lower side of the ego thing. So how does such team or such environment look like? So when you're in a team environment, there's no going around of like conflict or anything that might have happened along the way that is not like really the perfect performance, right? So you need to discuss things and also admit your mistakes or like hold others accountable in your team. Like there's no way around it. No matter if you're an amateur team or the most professional team, you cannot go around this thing. So within this team that I'm particularly talking about is they had a low ego. So that means they're more anxious, more afraid of someone else's opinion. Like they don't want to really take the spotlight. So when the performance was going down, right, and the coach was saying things like, okay, guys, we need to step up, right? But there's a difference between a coach, like, even though there's different types of coaches, but when he's more above the team or behind the team, there's still a distance to be bridged between like the team and the coach. And oftentimes, the person with a developed ego, I would say, it can be like the communication or the bridge between the coach and the team. So what happened in this team, like there was not like an ego that could like step into the spotlight or hold others accountable. Instead, only the coach. So there was no player in the team that says like, okay, guys, we lost 2 games in a row. Like I'm feeling like you guys are not focused. I'm seeing you like scrolling on Twitter, or you're distracted, or like you were making mistakes. Like what the f is going on, right? To put yourself out there and put that ego like a little bit of semi, a little bit of like good, like measured and good amount of aggressiveness to wake people up. That part was missing, so others are like, oh yeah, 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 we don't want this, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. But if no one in the team is saying that, right, you have nothing to like, you're a little bit of energy to pull you back up, right? So everything comes onto the shoulders and the responsibility of the coach, and that really can make it difficult in terms of like the team dynamics if you're not prepared for that, or especially if you don't know how to handle that. So that is really important part, and one example how like also having no ego is detrimental.
Yeah. So I'm wondering though, if you're talking about, I can see how ego helps with that, right? In a
Yeah.
team. But in FIFA, we don't have many teams.
Right.
There are some circumstances where you have 2 versus 2, but usually it's a very solo sports, right? We're talking about
Yeah.
esports, but we also have the same experience when you're just playing from your console, right? You're just playing at home and say, why should I care about these guys talking about ego on air while all I'm doing is just taking my controller, making sure I can like beat my opponent? Is ego something you can actually use solistic, like using solo in your advantage, or being aware of that?
Well, it's like a balance, right? It's everything goes with balance. So before I make my point, let's take an example, right? So obviously, since you guys are FIFA enthusiasts, there's a great documentary about Cristiano Ronaldo, right? Or also Muhammad Ali, like the boxer type of guy. He's very famous. And what they all have in common, they have on one side, they are very like humble. Like they train as like, I don't know, like Cristiano Ronaldo, he trains like a madman. Not, he supports his team with everything he can on one side, but when he needs to, he knows how to turn on his ego. And those two things are like in perfect balance, right? Also for Muhammad Ali, was a very humble guy. Like he did more than only boxing. Also fighting for against racism and those types of things. But he was working hard at it, right? Even though he didn't really like boxing. Uh, what you hear in his life story, but he did it, right? He's working hard on one side, and on the other side, he's famous for his quote, "I am the greatest." Now, if that is not an example of having like also a big ego, like a beneficial ego, and where they get recognized from, that is very important. So you can at certain moments in time, if you feel in now we bring it back to like your FIFA and your individual context. If you can bring it back to the individual, to yourself, and feel like, okay, if you feel like a little bit anxious, like, okay, maybe you need a little bit more aggressive like approach, like I'm gonna beat these guys, just prepare yourself, and you're like, okay, I can be better than those, even though they are higher ranked than me. I know that I'm good, and I know that I've beaten better players than him. Of course, like perhaps the chances are slim, but there is a chance, right? So I'm gonna put my best in there, and I have all the capabilities in me to beat him. So that's a little bit of like an ego boost, right? And that helps you to put your mental state, your body, mind, and also like your thumbs on your joystick be congruent. So that means being in line, right? Because if you want to play aggressive, but your mind is anxious, well, that's a disconnection, brother. You need to work on that. So you want to align everything, and instead of like tipping the ego like too low or too high, you want to keep it in perfect balance. So you using both tools.
Yeah, and I think that's a good example, right? The balance is very important. Also, when we talk about FIFA and you're playing yourself, the formations you are playing can be very much dependent on how your ego state is. So, talking back for FIFA plays, if you're playing a very aggressive 4-1-2-1-2 narrow, which is a very high attacking formation, right? But you're actually unsure about yourself, or you are doubting yourself if you actually have a chance against this opponent. Those two matches, the scales don't tip, right? Or the tip one side, and it actually doesn't work that well. You're mechanically, you're saying I'm going to attack, while your ego is holding yourself back. So it sort of breaks apart. And that's also from why certain formations don't work in line with certain players or play styles. And it's really hard to do so. If you're talking about ego, Donny, I think there's one thing which we always have to ask, right? What's the difference between a good ego and being arrogant?
The thing is, like when you get arrogant, maybe like there's a difference, right? Is you have to deal with perception. So it's not bad if people say you're arrogant. Like, so hear me out. It's not bad when people view you as arrogant, but it is not good when it prevents you from performing at your best, right? So you can be as egocentric as you can, as long as it doesn't influence in a bad way your own performance, your own growth, or like your environment. Because in terms of like professional FIFA players, they're working as well within a team or within a coach, right? They need each other to teamwork, to come up with new strategies, to talk about like different players, updates, and everything, right? So if you're super egocentric and you say like, I know everything already, like what do you know? Like I'm 200 ranking points higher than you. What are you saying to me? Like don't talk to me, right? That is very arrogant and way too much ego, because it's not beneficial for your own sake. You're blocking yourself of improvement. While at the same time, you can be like arrogant or at least proud of yourself and what you can achieve. But at the same time, you can still communicate with your players. You can still communicate with your coach. You can still like interact and brainstorm of new ideas, and then come up like what will help you to improve and promote. Now that is a healthy ego orientation, because a high ego orientation is like you can say that like they like to compare themselves a lot with others, right? Oh, they are higher ranking, so they are better or they are worse or whatever. You know, like I've met a lot of FIFA players already that are saying like, yeah, why am I losing to this guy? He's 200 rating, you know, like he's so bad, you know, but you've lost to him.
The
You've
amount
lost.
of people that send me messages say I can win from pros, but I can't win from noobs, which I think is still very
Yeah.
arrogant, is amazing. If we check our DMs every day, it's like full of people saying,
Yes.
how come I can't perform when I play this guy I won, but if I play my regular games I keep losing versus noobs."
Yeah, it's a perfect like ego thing. Like you already classify them as noobs, right? It could also be like a professional player that started a new account, right? But you let yourself only the only attention that you have as a player in a moment is his skill rating, right? You're putting your attention on things that doesn't matter at all when you're playing the game, because in the game he can be better, he can have a good day, he had a good night's sleep, you know, like he has his moment of his life, you know, like that. You also, like as an individual, had your day where you increased maybe your rating by 300 or 4 or 500 points in one day. You feel like, oh, what is going on, why am I playing out of my mind? Like those players below you also have that opportunity to do that. That's why you have the rating system, right? It's a challenge. You get more points in one way, or lower points, or lose more points. You know, that's the ranking system. But you have to stay close to who you are. And if you have a high ego and you already classify your opponent as noobs, or yeah, I couldn't win anyway because they're way too good, don't forget, maybe they play more or even less than you, but they're people like you from fresh flesh and blood. They have their flaws, you know, perfect imperfection is that they have, just like you. So stay centered. And yeah, so another thing, John, also like is like known for high ego, is to be very competitive. And being competitive is very healthy, especially like in the top esports environment. But when you take it too far, it's getting into an hostile environment, right? So you're using your elbows, or only saying like, oh, I am the best, I am the best, but you're not really like aligning your actions with your words or whatever. So that's not really working out. So you don't want to create an hostile environment. So if you know, like, okay, people start to dislike me, people start to be quiet around me before they wanted to give me feedback or something, what is going on? And don't look at like the outside world first, look at yourself, right? How is my ego balance? Is it too high? Or perhaps you feel like, okay, it's a little bit too low. I need a little bit more. I need to say my opinion a little bit more. I kind of need a little bit more competitiveness in my life. So yeah, and it's always like the comparison of like your success versus them, because perhaps you're watching or listening to this right now in Twitch, podcast, Spotify, or on Twitter or whatever, YouTube, and you're feeling like, okay, but I want to be a professional player, I want to be like in the Premier League, I want to be in Division 1, I want to go to the World Championship. Well, acknowledge that there are like thousands upon thousands of other young people that also want to pursue that goal, right? So if you're only comparing yourself to where they are and you're maybe 1 week ahead or maybe a couple of rating, it feels good, right? And that's normal, but don't let it overtake you, right? Then you have the imbalance of that ego again.
What's the difference between having a lack of good mindset of instead of having a good ego? Is what Kingpin asks. So, is the when you say, "Hey, I'm playing noobs, I should win this," is is that a change of mindset which you can do, or what's the comparison with ego in that matter? Or is it if you're having a good ego or a high ego, your mindset's automatically more able to do so?
Yeah, you can compare it with mindset for sure, and then you can compare it to the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. So those are like a good concepts to compare it to, like the ego balance. So it's a pretty common concept, but like in short, the fixed mindset is like, I am born with this talent, I am either good or I'm either bad, or I cannot like go further, this is my state and I will be in this state like forever. It's fixed, you know, like it's not flexible at all. So think about like that player that thinks very highly of himself, but only like judges player calling them noobs, etc. Because I cannot improve because I'm playing versus noobs and they play not my
They have too
style,
good of a
or
team.
yeah, they have a too good of a team. They pay to win or blah 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 whatever. Like the talks that you're having with yourself, or perhaps have heard about those talks, right? So that is a fixed mindset that you cannot grow out of it, right? It's holding you in your place where you are by having those conversations with yourself and your surrounding, right? So those are the stories that you tell yourself. Now we have on the other side, we have the growth mindset. So that already portrays like growth. So instead of like, okay, I might get beaten by what I had classified last week as a noob, but yeah, he's doing a pretty decent job. Maybe I haven't slept enough and I can increase my sleep pattern. Perhaps I need like coaching from FUT coaching, right? That will help me improve. Perhaps I need a session of next level esports to help me on the mental side, or I can just like eat well, perform like with deliberate practice. Like if instead of like saying things of like and being judgmental of like this is the way it is and this is the way it's gonna be and this is my judgment, right? And it feels nice and like uh, like punching the wall, because it feels nice in the moment. It's not beneficial for you. So it's holding you in the place where you are now and even moving backwards. Fixed mindset. Growth mindset is I can do better. Like let's reflect on myself. What do I need in order to perform better? Who can help me, etc. Right? So those are the two things.
Yeah, and does that automatically mean that if you have a lower ego, that you're already set into a fixed mindset, and vice versa? Someone with a higher ego is more inclined to go into a more, how you said it, the other mindset,
Growth
the growth
mindset.
mindset. A higher egos are more adaptable to growth mindsets. So
No, you
although they,
can. Yeah. Good question. So, the growth mindset is a balance, right? Where you can balance and you learn how to use the ego side and also like the low ego or the ego empty side, right? To be humble, right? That is the growth mindset to have it in balance. Having a fixed mindset means I'm having too much of an ego, like too much is too heavy, or I have too little of an ego, right? So that is a fixed mindset. So if you have a very high ego or very low ego, you're probably in the fixed mindset area. But if you have a good balance, like you can stay humble, acknowledge your mistakes, you know where the opportunities are to grow, you know how to ask for help so you can develop and grow much faster and more efficiently, then you are in the growth mindset. So that's the balance.
yeah, it's very important though. Donny, how would you describe your own ego?
My own ego.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like I think it's decently balanced, but sometimes I believe it's part of human nature. You will go out of balance, like anyway. Like even the most monks or Buddhists, they will, I don't know, they will eventually go a little bit out of balance. So, what I'm talking about, so I'm building next level esports, helping other teams, and I feel like, okay, I can genuinely help them, but I don't know everything, right? Sometimes there are problems outside of my control that influence the performance state of a player or a whole team. So I go into, for example, coaching sessions or workshops with a mindset, like I'm open for everything that's coming my way and I will try to deal with in the best way possible. But at the same time, when I'm like before the workshop or before the coaching session, or the same thing goes for after the coaching session, I sometimes have like that I doubt myself, like that I feel like, okay, I'm not sure if they will like this workshop or this coaching session. I prepared this, or I'm not sure like where I'm going with this, but I know I can help them. But yeah, it feels a little bit like, can I actually help them? Yes or no? Do they find it valuable? Or after the training or coaching or workshop, I feel like, yeah, I think they liked it. They said they liked it, but do they genuinely like it? I start to doubt
Yeah.
from time to time myself if it was good enough, right? So I believe that everyone has moments of these.
Good answer. That's true though. I mean, as solopreneurs ourselves, right? I think I'm fairly often caught in the same feelings. Like you have to be have a sort of balanced ego, I think, to start your own company, right? You have to be certain of yourself, but you also have to make sure you are open for growth, feedback, and take all those things into consideration to put yourself out there, I think, but also stand for what everything is you're doing. And
Yeah.
it's sort of comparable to scoring that goal and celebrating, but afterwards training really hard to make sure it works. And I know that exactly the feeling. I think something you said, Neil, is very important, right? Because how can this help a individual player listening to this podcast and say, this is all so fuzzy. How can I
Hmm.
take this concept and start tomorrow and work on my own gameplay or work on my own? Because, hey, guys, from foot coaching, you're just telling me either which button to press or which formation to play or how to prepare better for this, right? But how can I change my mindset, or how can I use my own ego to actually perform better after listening to the show?
Yeah, for sure. It needs to be practical, right? So now we covered basically like the conceptual, the virtual realm, like getting a feel of it. Like, yeah, I recognize my in these situations, and I know what I can do a little bit. I understand where you're coming from. But now is like the time. Okay, like Donny, John, like tell me what is like the practical step that I can undertake to work on my ego, like to balance it out in the right way. Well, you're in for a treat because we got an answer for that, right? So so let me explain. So we have this balance, right? So it can shift on one end on like the ego empty side or the very egotistical side. But in the middle, that is where we find balance, where it's stable and like perfect balance, just like Thanos, with his thing, like everything in perfect balance. That's what he likes. But in the middle, we find genuine confidence. So let me say it again, genuine confidence. So that is not confidence, but it's genuine confidence. So that also means if you're genuine, that you feel like, okay, I'm strong. I know I can provide value, right? If I'm doing a coaching session, I know that I have the capabilities to help and produce like better FIFA players or better esports teams and players in general because I've done it like over and over again a lot of times already. So I know I can do this, but at the same time, in being genuine, I know that like there could be something new along the way that I don't know yet. And if that comes, I might have to say, sorry, John, I don't know this answer. Let me look it
Yeah.
up or let me talk to another guy. That is genuine confidence that you are not a know it all or a smart ass, that you think you know it or that you think too low of yourself, but have a good balance of both. And the key word in this, so if you're really listening and like digging this and you really want to go into this, write down the word humility. Humility is the key word of this podcast, right? So if you want to learn or take away one thing, it starts with being humility,
So we
right?
call this show all about ego, but actually we should call this all about humility.
Yeah, yeah, right. Ego is the main thing, right? That's the mother load of things, right? It connects everything. But if you want to solve and like whatever you are on the sliding scale or in the balance, if you are looking for or go to humility, then you will always go back into your balance, right? You will go into your genuine confidence by being humility. By, okay, I know I can provide good enough. I might be the best player on the team. I might be the best player in this tournament, but they have like can have pretty good days. I develop three play styles that I can play like excellent at the best of the world, but I also know that those other 15 play styles I'm not that good at, right? So that's why you develop your own individual playstyle by staying humility. Like, okay, I cannot do everything because I'm not that great. You know this. So you'll lean to more towards your playstyle because you feel comfortable with that and you know, like, okay, I need to do this. That's where my comfort zone is and where I can really do damage in terms of performance. But if I do the other things, yeah, it might be for another day or maybe development, but this doesn't really suit my playstyle. So more so staying away from this part.
Yeah, and I
And that
think
ability.
that's essential, right? Taking that back to the individual player playing FIFA at their console at home, if you start thinking about being like having humility, right? If you start that as a basis for everything you do in the game or what you're thinking about when you start a game, then you will automatically perform at your currently best level.
Yeah.
And I see too many people who start off with a negative mindset or with a too positive mindset, right? Oh, let's do this. While actually knowing that there's many things they don't influence or they can still do. It could go into being arrogant as well, right? If it actually works a little too good for a night, but then tomorrow you'll be knocked down a couple of on the skill point rating. Like, what was going on here? And I think write that down, and whenever you start, thoughts really influence everything you do, right? So whenever you start feeling overconfident, or you think like, oh, I'm now 7-0 and I can be a 10-0, I need to be 10-0, I need to be, right? Or with my team, I should be able to do this. Then think back from, okay, let's be humility. Okay, yes, I should be able to do this, but my opponents can have very good opponents. I don't know who I will face. If I face this one, I know it might be in a trouble. If I concede a goal, that might happen, right? So stay confident and then go from there. But don't go in it with those skills being tipped to the side of being too egocentric or being too arrogant. Stay close to yourself there. And that is trainable, that purpose, right? That cause.
Yeah, 100%. It's totally trainable, and exactly where you can start. What you already said is like it's your self-talk, right? People undervalue or underestimate your self-talk. We think it's like the training or the practice or the mental side. Where does it start? Like even with my sessions, like even if I give you all the tools in the world that will make you become the best FIFA player or best esport player or whatever team in the world. But if you keep talking the wrong way towards yourself, you're never gonna get there, right? You're your own biggest obstacle. It's not the world. It's not like the competition. You are the obstacle, right? So acknowledge, reflect on yourself where you are right now, and like find your way. Stay humble. Stay like have humility, and you will get there with genuine confidence, and you will perform so much better. I guarantee it.
Yeah, and that's doable after you listen to this podcast from moment one. If you just be honest to yourself, you don't even have to talk out loud. You don't have to write it down. You just have to remember that.
Yeah.
And for anything else, we can always help, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So, yeah, what also is a thing that I want to cover, John, is when people are talking humility, they instantly start to think about weakness. Oh, he's so humble. He has humility all the time, and it feels like, oh, how I envision that myself, and it's also like I need to remind myself is like when I envision humility, it feels like maybe a Chinese guy that bows before everyone and stays down with his head because the leader is speaking or whatever. You don't look the people in the eye. No, it's a sign of like the other person is greater than I am, and oftentimes that's associated with weakness, like, oh, you cannot speak for yourself, or you're letting run over by your teammates or whatever, or your own thoughts. But you can think about humility as intelligent self-respect, right? So you think about who am I? Do I respect myself in who I am, but in an intelligent way, right? Not like, oh yeah, I respect myself. Yeah, man, respect, respect, respect. But also add the intelligent part, right? Think about, reflect about, like, what do you bring in? Why do you respect yourself? Think 1, 2, 3 steps, like further than that. And that will bring you more to your core, where you are. And if you know this dynamic, right, there are many exercises to improve your self-talk as well. You use humility and those things as well to improve your own self-talk. And if you improve your self-talk, man, you it's one of the keys to greatness. 100%.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'd love to be able to talk about you about these things a lot more, but it's all about the audience, Donny, which
Yeah.
means that we'll be doing this more often, which also means we might actually do it next week. Once again, it is at the local food and review studio over here. So we get something recorded like over here personally. So if you're listening or watching this, let us know what is a topic you would like to be discussed, or which problems are you facing while playing FIFA or any other esports if you're listening to this, of course. And maybe we can help with that. Send us a topic, send us those questions, and we'll see if we can answer that.
For sure. Let's go.
I think we can talk another hour about this certain topic, but hey, we gotta leave something in the air, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Donny, if there's one tip you would give people playing FIFA and to not only make them play better, maybe leave that part to us, but make them feel better about what they're doing or how they are doing it, what would that be?
Make them feel better.
Make them have more fun with the game. What is there a mindset you can change on that? Is it important to set target before you actually go, or do you just say sit in a different position? Anything else? Give the listeners one really cool tip.
Like in terms of fun.
Stand upside down before playing.
Yeah, it differs per person, but like what I would say is a good exercise is, if you want to enjoy your game more, is go back, like the first 2 months when you touched FIFA. Maybe that's FIFA 14, for example, or maybe FIFA 16. Think about those moments, where you had your Sunday or whatever, and you couldn't wait, to touch the game, to have the controller in your hand. What was going through your mind? And not only think about it, but also like rethink and re-feel that feeling. Like, what kind of physical sensation did you already have? Like that enthusiastic. Yeah, you're ready to go. Like, you're happy. Maybe you're playing with friends together. Like, what was that feeling? And go back to that, and also figure out, like, okay, what was I missing then, and or what am I missing now compared to then? And a lot of players, what I've seen is like they pressure themselves because they want to achieve, like they're getting better, but they are also somewhat getting greedy. They started to go into the fixed mindset and they cannot really improve. And what they forget is just to have fun, right? To just improve, to play the game how they want to play the game, but just be conscious about it, right? What is that fun game? Maybe you need to play more with friends instead of playing alone, right? To have that enjoyment, to have these discussions about the players or setups or different play styles again. So, I believe it's connection is the key word.
Yeah.
Connection with your previous self, where you really enjoyed it, but also connection with other people where you can share your passion and love for the game.
Brilliant. Great tip. Thank you so much. Thank you for being on tonight, mate. Can't wait to see you, next week. But this has been a cool piece of content. So if you like this content, these types of conversations, let us know. Just tweet at us at FUT In Review or at FUT Coaching, of course. But Donny, before we go out, where can people find you, my friend?
Well, they can always send me a message through Twitter. That's at next_L_level. Or esports, not level, because it's the L. So once again, without mistakes, at next_L_esports. You can send me DM. Everything is open. Also, you can go to the website, nextlevelesports.com/contact. Or perhaps you might be interesting, if you are listening with this and we really like these type of subjects about like ego, also like how to perform, how to present yourself, perhaps as a player or a coach. Then you can also check out the website on the academy to maybe enroll into the program to have these weekly sessions and deep dive training and more connection with esports coaches and other people in the esports scene on a high level. So if that's for you, you can check that out as well.
Yes, which is something we at FUT Coaching, not only because we like you and we're partners, but highly recommend because all of our coaches are actually participating in those programs.
Yeah.
And they keep coming back on their own will. I don't have to force anyone, so I guess that's a good sign. Although I shouldn't. No, I'm just kidding. It's
No.
okay.
No.
I'm really enjoying this, and I think everyone from our coaching staff does. So Really cool to
Yeah.
have you on board. All right, so check out that nextlevelesports.com and of course next_L_esports on Twitter to send Donny a message and say hi to him. In the meanwhile, we want to thank you for listening, of course, on today's show. We'll be back this Friday, and Daniel might actually make his return, which means I have Friday off, which is a total relief for me. Could definitely go with a night off.
Yeah.
People sending questions, which team will win tonight, and of course, check out the podcast on Apple's podcast and Spotify. And if you have 20 seconds or 5 seconds, I see people doing it in 3 seconds, you can actually give us a 5-star review. You don't have to put anything else in it. Just give us a 5-star, because that really helps us to be found. And that's also a very free way of supporting us. So thank you very much for that. That leaves it with one thing left. And Donny, we didn't practice it, but you've been on this show before, so I'm pretty sure you can do it. But now it's time for us to drop it.
What was it again?
Drop it, my friend.
Drop it. I forgot I did it. I remember, but I don't know what to do. Sorry.